Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Brighter Podcast. My name is BatSheva.
And my name is Chelsea.
And my life is so much brighter thanks to Chelsea.
And my life is definitely brighter thanks to BatSheva.
Chelsea and I love to come on here with all of our Brighter Bee community and share with you guys the stories of our lives, all the things we're trying out, the modalities, the techniques, the spiritual technologies, the diets, the hacks, and bring the results of our experiences to you, hoping that it will make your day brighter. And we have another super cool topic to bring to you today. But before we get into it, let's go ahead, all of us, and take 3 breaths together, arriving in the digital space all at once. So if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, go ahead and do that. Relax your body a little bit. And all together, let's go ahead and breathe in nice deeply through the nose. Calm, quieting energy. Open your mouth, breathe it out, letting anything ready to go, let it go. All of us together taking another breath in through the nose, breathing in calming, soothing energy. Maybe even sighing it out, letting anything ready to go, go. And the third breath all together in through your nose, calming, quieting energy. Then letting it go. Hello. So here we are on this beautiful day to talk about kind of like a witchy subject, premonition or co-creation. What are you doing? Chelsea and I have been sort of bandying about this topic lately. And Chelsea, what would you say when it comes to having premonitions and or co-creating with something unseen? Has this been present in your life lately?
It's like literally all the things that we talk about usually has recently happened in our lives. So welcome into our lives. I would say that the most recent, I've always been a believer that we are co-creating our lives. Not that we have control over them, because I believe that there is a difference. And whenever we try to control things, sometimes end up not happy with what is going on. And also, even not see some of the gifts that are being given to us in that present moment. But the thought of being the co-creator, the thought of what role do our actual thoughts play into that co-creation? What is the precursor to the thoughts? It's kind of all of it. And that kind of has been being brought up of really a lot lately for me in the nervous system work and in the early stages of imprinting, I guess, for lack of a better word, talking about what you learned in those really pivotal years. And kind of phrase that comes to my mind is whenever I've heard my mom or other parents say that kids are a sponge. And I feel like this really is whenever they're younger. And how I used to look at it was it's like a brand new computer. They don't have all the memories or all the experiences or everything taking up the hard drive. So everything that is presented to them, whether that be a new word, which was like most frequently something that was thought of, or, something that happens at a birthday party or wherever, that they remember it and they repeat it and it comes out. And so then a lot of the training and a lot of the education that I'm receiving is really going back to those years, the 0 through 6 to 8, depending on who you're getting the information from, and how those experiences and incidents can prime us for the rest of our lives, whether we are aware of it or it's something that's kind of playing out under the surface.
Well, that's deep, and
So,
it's kinda heavy too, because it's, like, also reminding me of, yeah, the trauma book that we talked about in another, episode, The Body Keeps the Score, and, even this much more spiritually oriented book that I keep bringing up as well that I'm really into by Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment, and then his workshops about surrendering. He's using the term samskara, which is that I think Hindu or Buddhist. I don't know. It's an Indian term for like the, let's say, invisible but energetic imprints that experiences have had on our energetic body, and that basically these wise gurus over the ages already understood through all their deep meditation how trauma works on an energetic level, that we have these experiences that are painful when we're little and of course continuing our entire life, and then we often store, almost always store, our reaction to that experience if it was negative, and we don't want to feel hurt or sad or upset or traumatized. So then unfortunately, we'll just like, ugh, like we'll actually keep it instead of instead of feeling it fully and then releasing it. And then that creates an energetic samskara, which then the rest of or if we love it so much we don't want to let it go, that also creates an energetic samskara. That grasping and that wanting to have that experience over and over again is also not ideal. And then instead of being this sort of flowing channel person who is free to co-create with, um, like, with all of our full energy that we are gifted with being alive, instead we are spending a lot of our time, like Chelsea mentioned, trying to control the narrative so that it feels good according to these invisible imprints, these samskaras that we've stored up within. And it's interesting now that I'm saying it out loud, because I think the whole idea of the adding the premonition aspect to this topic happened also because, like, I I was in a car accident recently, and for the couple of weeks before the accident, I can look back and say I had a premonition. I did feel like this idea of, like, being in a car crash kept kinda surfacing, but, like, I was hoping, like, I don't wanna co-create that. Like, they say thoughts are, dictate reality, and but what do you do if a thought bubbles up like that? You need to, like, release it, because if I hold it or repress it, that doesn't solve the problem. It creates an imprint, it creates a samskara, and then
sometimes it reminds me of, we were just talking about this, some people refer to it as the nervous system, some people refer to it as energy. It's the vocabulary, it's how it's being presented and who the audience is. And so for me, sometimes it's the same. Like the premonition is as it can be another name for the subconscious, can be another name for the thoughts that are recirculating in our minds in cycles. Because what is it to really embody and learn a lesson? If we're in this cyclical life, life, death, rebirth, if that's what you believe, and the seasons, they are in a cycle, women's cycle, like we're all in this circular cycle. And so, what if it's the same for the lessons that we learn, or the thoughts are reoccurring thoughts? And is it an opportunity for us to learn and grow from the thought, or to choose a different approach to it? And then there's the whole thing of spiritual bypassing or avoidance, or using mantras or affirmations, or whatever it is, to suppress or repress these emotions instead of accepting them or claiming them or even admitting that we're having them. Like, who wants to say, "Oh my gosh, I've been having these thoughts of the car crash?" Because in some of the teaching, it's like, "Oh, now you're giving it more attention, so therefore you're giving it more energy, and so then it's going to happen." But there's also the teaching that what we resist persists.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and that's true.
So I feel like it's just like this whole story of duality of both and,
Right. I
honestly.
100% agree with you. And that's where this beautiful third, what do they call it? The third wheel, like talking about wheels and cycles. The third leg of the stool is like, maybe you could call it community, but it's more than that. It's like that uplifter, the empathetic witness, the therapist or the practitioner or the coach or the sister goddess or your best friend or your husband or wife or the, and it can be different person for each, could be a fellow in a 12-step program. It's the idea where it's safe or by ourselves, but often it's with that other person where we can truly share and release. Oh my gosh, I have to share this story. It just reminded me. I think it's a good example of what we're talking about as far as what do you do when like thoughts and feelings are happening and overtaking you and you don't want them to because you don't want them to be a part of your co-creation of your next chapter. So I had this like really upsetting shock that happened to me very recently. And it was a letter with information that I did not fucking see coming. And it's still like a thing in my life. But when I first was experiencing and reeling from what this letter revealed to me, I was like, "Oh my goodness," like the enormity, the tsunami of like what was happening internally from the feelings and the thoughts and like um just like a lot of anger and just every feeling you can imagine that you would not want to co-create a future with ideally was definitely in play. And also I'm a mom and I'm working and I'm writing and I'm with friends and I can't just be that in my life. I need to show up in other ways. And then I would share here and there with Chelsea, and I was doing all my practices, which, we go through these repeatedly, but we have whole podcasts on what we do to help ourselves, release emotion. And I'm doing all of it, and it's all amazing. And then with perfect divine timing, I wound up calling a woman from this 12-step program and because there's something called outreach and fellowship where it's sort of like a connection where you just call each other for a few minutes and you can just kind of vent, I would say, or, and then just have an empathetic witness listen to you and then you can exchange or it can just be one-sided and then it's done and that's it. Okay, so this little modality and technique that this program offers, I remembered this one woman who I had talked with once before and gotten a lot of great comfort from her, just in a 3-minute exchange. I called her, I reached out to her. She said she was available. She made time for me. She's like, just, let it go. In that, maybe 3, maybe 4 minutes, maybe 5 that I spoke with her, I wailed and howled and shrieked like a mythical creature. I was like almost out of my body, but I was in my body because it was all coming out because I felt so safe with her. And I knew that she was not going to worry and catastrophize. And, you need to be careful who you allow these kind of releases in front of, that it's not going to be someone who's going to either just tell you what to do. But it just worked out so perfectly. And her response was so perfect. And she's like, the information in that letter, you had no control over. It was not and so she made me laugh. She was, "You're in a pickle. You're in a pickle right now, and you don't know how it's going to play. And there's nothing you can do." So this woman, she was like, "You're in a pickle. You're in a pickle," and I started cracking up through the tears because she was right. I'm in a fucking pickle right now, and there's actually nothing I can do actively, like do that I'm not doing. So I just really needed to be held. And the whole reason I'm telling this whole long revealing story about like my process recently is because of my lower back had gone out. And I could have been like, oh, it was from the workout I did. It was, we were doing flat back exercises. We were doing blah, 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 blah. It fucking healed the minute I was on the off the phone with her. And I'm not kidding. Like it healed. It's better. And then it got a little twinge when I got some other bad news. And I was like, oh, shit. And then it healed again. Like there's such a relationship, as Chelsea was saying, between the nervous system, energy, like whatever you want to call it, it's all related. And if we can't help ourselves be cared for and release instead of repress, then we're going to have a hard time co-creating with the universe, with Goddess, with our own energies. You don't have to believe in it, all of that, just like co-creating with our, you know, with ourselves and others.
Right. And it's kind of leading me to think about, you know, the early childhood and kind of the imprinting. And if you grow up with people who have, you know, they've kind of been living in defense mode their whole life, or just kind of, you know, they were on alert for so long, you know, you can see it in people who they expect the worst, or even whenever they get something good, it's like, uh-oh, I got that. Now where's the, like, what's the next string, you know, that's going to be attached? And so it's like, wow, like what role does that play? And can you see it deep enough to welcome it in? And this has kind of been a practice that I've been doing recently, of recognizing the lost selves or the abandoned selves who we don't even see or we don't even recognize, but maybe they were a part of us, they became a part of us to protect us. And now their role really isn't necessary anymore. And so sometimes they can be blocking things, or, you know, that thought process. Thought process, whenever, if you were a little kid who was getting beat and you're like, oh my gosh, like here comes this person that's beat me every time. I need to, you know, go to a different place in my mind because I can't escape physically. That was your protective mechanism then. That was how you survived. But then, like, now you're an adult and you're trying to get close to people and you can't, because whenever something is triggered, then you go somewhere else. You know, that self is still playing its role. And so I don't really know. I think I was talking about like the initial imprinting and how that can lead to our thoughts kind of being controlled in a sense by our past experiences.
Like we think we're co-creating, but actually it's our past experiences, traumas, raspa that's co-creating.
Yeah.
Totally.
Or that's blocking us from something, like maybe there's something really amazing that's going to happen to us, and then we self-sabotage because we worry that, oh, if this happens to me, then maybe I'll have less time, or I'll have more responsibility, or then I'll have to worry about these other things, you know, that there's a string attached.
So in that case, it seems like, and this is what I believe, it seems like it's more beneficial to focus on any practices, modalities, and life hacks and practices that I said practices and life. I'm thinking like creative opportunities or workouts or anything at all that helps us release and rearrange those circular, habitual, over and over patterns from repeating.
And I think,
yeah,
I was going to say, I think recognize too. Like, not even just release them, but show them love and appreciation for the role that they did play, for the time that they were helpful.
I mean, this is that book I think I mentioned in our last podcast or the other day, No Bad Parts. This is the
Oh yeah.
That's yeah, that's his entire thesis, and it's I just the other day when I was meditating, and then my eye at night, and my eye happened to notice the clock on my phone, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, you're not meditating, you're seeing the phone, your eyes open, you know?" And then I go, "Oh, that's my inner critic." And I'm like, "Let me give her love, let me." And then this other girl's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's my inner teenager. I'm gonna give her love too." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not like zoned out, meditating deeply, only, connected to my greater self and not my thoughts." But I did allow my thoughts to move me through exactly what you're talking about. Exactly.
Well, and even in that one practice right there, it's recognizing that you showed up for yourself to do the practice and that there is no perfect practice. Like it is perfect. Every practice is perfect in and of itself. And that practice allowed you to connect to those parts of yourself and to give them love. And maybe that's what they needed. Uh, so yeah, I guess yeah. I was just gonna say, yeah, this kind of circling back to the premonition versus the co-creation is I think it's both for me. Um, I think it's the past conditioning and patterns, at least in this one story that I'm about to share. Um, it was like, what has my role been in my older sister role? I am the oldest of two other sisters. I have two younger sisters. And being able to say no, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't say that they ask for much from me, but if they did, I always felt like I will figure it out. I will say yes, however this looks. I will be the big sister. I will save them or help them or whatever I can do. And I had known about my youngest sister and her life circumstances. And I just like thought, oh my gosh, she's going to ask me this question. And then she did ask me that question. And there was the part of me that immediately wanted to respond and say yes and take it on and, show up and save her, quote unquote. And then there was the other part of me who was like, pump the brakes, think about this. There's other people that are involved. There's several conversations that need to be have. And I'm still working through lots of things, but there's been lots more revelations regarding it. And one of the biggest things was what if me saying yes is actually blocking her from something that is for her? And how to determine the right path. And this is where I think the comes into it because it's letting go of the control and the thought that we get to have control over everything and that by making a choice, that will be. And so, yeah, leaving space for the thought of what is meant for me will not pass me by. And also offering. Thank you, Tosha, for that beautiful, beautiful gift of offering everything up, asking for the divine to take the lead, to make things clear, to, if it's not meant for me, to let there be another way. and then just trusting, oh my gosh, which sometimes can be another challenge, especially if it's not something that can be answered or the trust is shown pretty quickly. And you have to hold on to the trust and you have to hold on to the faith and you have to really sit with it.
It's so interesting because you and I both have these examples today that we are choosing to kind of allow a certain layer of privacy with the letter I received and with the specific request from your sister. And it's interesting because I believe it'll come a time in 6 months, a year, 6 years, I don't know when, we'll share these stories.
Yeah.
But for now, the important part is that it is interesting that both of us I don't know that I had a premonition about the letter, I didn't, but you had a premonition that you were gonna be asked something big, and I had a premonition about that car accident, and then that car accident happened and
I
you were
think that
asked.
you knew though, like you knew in the back of your mind, like maybe it wasn't something that you were thinking about daily, but
True.
I thought that you had told me that you knew about
Yeah,
it.
I knew, but I was in big time denial. I didn't have the and maybe the premonition comes when you are in less denial, and then you actually that would make sense because I do think when I'm more open, that's when the premonitions come for good things too. Like I think sometimes I think money's gonna come to me, or I think like some person, is gonna come into my life and it happens. So it's not only negative things, and I do think the premonitions can be gifts when your energetic channel's more open. And I would say in the case of the letter on that topic, I had dug it quite down and what did you say? When you resist, it persists. It did persist.
Yeah. Yeah, well, even kind of circling back to Michael Singer with the surrender, he had a lot of things that were coming up and they were uncomfortable. Him having to do the lawsuits and work through all the things. And just, I think that you were mentioning that he just is surrendering like each time. And that kind of goes back to the nervous system work of it. Of, okay, whenever these premonitions, good or bad, come, what is the body's initial response? Like, do all the bells and sirens go off like a fire alarm and it's like, wow, 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 here, what are we gonna do? Or is everyone like, okay, guys, we're gonna exit the building, out the door, down the stairs. Let's do this in a swift manner, but let's all stay calm, you know, kind of what's our internal system doing?
I just realized that it's so true that the underpinning of this very mystical, witchy topic of premonition and co-creation, it boils down to our energetic slash nervous system, which is quite scientifically proven by this point. And, I had mentioned to Chelsea I might want to mention this, and I think I will because it's pretty cool that the woman Chelsea's taking her year-long course with, Layla Martin. I've taken some of her smaller little offerings, and she has this one practice that she calls sex magic, and, as you might imagine, it's very sexy and very magical, but what it basically is, like, you kind of slowly bringing yourself energetically through your different 7 chakras, arousing yourself, like, in a private space by yourself, bringing yourself to peak pleasure, but the whole thing is that once you have your release or your orgasm or whatever's the final, the peak of that experience, and it really is an orgasm if possible, that's when you bring back into focus what you started with before you started, which is like, what do you want to manifest? What do you want to co-create? And it has to be something that's in alignment with the good of all people, not just like, I want $1 billion. Like, what is that? Just so it could, but and I love this practice. I really love it. And it is a co-creation. And what's was really fun is that I shared this practice. I talked about it with Meta, the Australian woman who I meet with on Zoom every few months. I've been meeting with her since I was still married, and she's been like a spiritual coach for me, like a wonderful support. And actually, the way I was introduced to her on Insight Timer before I knew her was I was listening to different meditations on that wonderful app, and I found her abundance manifestation meditation, and it was short and it was like before sleep, and I loved her voice and I loved it so much that I reached out to her. I found her on social media and I said, "Would you consider could I pay you to do something specific geared toward me?" Because I was going through a hard time. And through that, I found out she does coaching and the rest has been history. So when I had my last session with her, I told her about the sex fire. She goes, "That's genius." Because she was like, "Yeah, because when you after you orgasm, the nervous system is relaxed and released and flowing and everything's flowing. And then you really feel into this vision and this co-creation." And that was kind of fun to be able to get that, like, again, like the nervous system confirmation of this sort of fun, witchy pleasure practice that I'm into.
Delicious.
So anyway, to our beautiful Brighter Bee community, we appreciate you guys so much. Before we get into our bookend, our final win, wow, and wish for the episode, we want to let you guys know yet again that we do have a website, brighterandbrighter.life. You can put your email in there and get only 2 emails from us a month when we have a new episode that's launched, and any other juicy details that we might throw into the email. So we would love for you, if you're not already, to go ahead and join this beautiful Brighter Bee community. And of course, like, subscribe, and do all the other things. Share. If this episode made you think of somebody, send the episode to that person. That would be great.
The one last thing that I was just thinking of as I had shared that last little bit about the fire alarms going off is just coming back to the thought that our internal reality creates our external reality. And that internal reality is our nervous system, is our energy, is our whole inner landscape. And these tools and techniques and everything that we share are opportunities to tend to that landscape. And by doing that, then we get to see the external results. It's like in the garden, you nurture the soil that's underneath, and then you have the beautiful flowers or fruits that come to the surface. So that's just the last little bit I wanted to share.
Love it. I love the image, especially that it's spring now. Perfect. So thank you. And let's see, I guess I will start off this final segment with my win and wow for today. And I will say win number 1 is that I felt, no, okay, that's going to be my wow. Win number 1, which is my brag, I'm bragging that I got in a 30-minute sit meditation this morning, and I had an inspiration during that sit regarding an exchange my sister and I are having through text about a novel that she's going to be publishing, that she's written, and I'm reading. It's fantastic. And I'm just bragging that I know that I'm able to, like, really bring a lot and help others. I can see a lot when it comes to editing or directing. Yeah, I'm bragging about that. And I'm just patting myself on the back for those of you who aren't seeing the
Well
video.
bragged.
And I was like, I was going to brag that I had the meditation. I'm like, no, I'm going to brag that I'm a bomb ass editor
Yeah,
and
you
director.
are.
And then,
Yeah, you are.
thank you. And then my wow, what I'm grateful for today, I'm really grateful that I feel fantastic. And I just, I didn't sleep that many hours, like maybe 6 something. And usually for me, that wouldn't feel like enough. And usually for me, I would feel very tired. And I don't know if it's because of all these new hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormones that I just imbibed yesterday in several different manners. But I'm like, the listeners can stay tuned for that journey. But for whatever the reason may be, I am grateful for feeling this boost of energy and rootedness. Yeah.
Yeah, the body. All right. And what is my wish? I am wishing for a lot of divine support and energy and motivation and assistance with the Healing House projects that are going to happen later today. My husband and I are going to be working on the studio, Soulscription Studio. It's the healing house. And yeah, just really wishing for so much energy and support in whatever is going to be most beneficial, and whatever is going to feel good, and whatever is going to be fun and productive and beneficial for the space and for us.
Love it.
That is my wish.
You planting all that beautiful energy into that space. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think this was episode 47. Very cool. And we really appreciate you guys. We love you. We adore you. And we love to hear from you. So don't be shy. Message us. Do all the things. We love it.
Thank you. Until next time.